Hey folks, how you doing? Papa Joe here. I'm sitting here at the house chilling out, trying to move this thing, so I hope I ain't making y'all dizzy. A while ago Stone had called me. I was a little bit busy, so I have called him back. He's been running that hurricane relief down there, and I'm curious to hear how it all went for him, and figured y'all might want to hear. So he's on the phone with us. How's it going, brother?
It's going pretty well. How are you, Papa Joe?
Oh, heck, man. If I was any better, there'd have to be two of me and the world couldn't stand it.
Yeah, I hear that.
So, you still running hurricane relief or are you done with that?
No, sir, I am still on duty with FEMA.
Right.
They put me on FEMA 2 days before Michael hit.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be the 9th, about 10 days ago. And it has been an experience,
Well,
to say the least.
before you get into any stories, let's cover a little bit of it. Now, I know you came into the live chat for a few minutes and said you had ran over 90 some odd hours. How is it working on the hours? You're totally exempt from hours and weight. Is that correct?
Well, apparently, according and seeing, so I did some research on this after that first scale house. We'll talk about that story in a second. That was a good one.
Right.
But according to the FMCSA exemption that's on their website that they have for the disaster area, I'm only supposed to be exempt from hours of service.
Okay.
That's what you're supposed to be. But I ran through a Georgia scale house 6 feet past the bridge law, and I think 8,500 pounds over. I was at 88,500 gross.
Wow.
And of course, my axles were off, and they said I could go on through.
Right.
So I'm supposed to only be exempt from hours of service, and I only had 2 overweight loads. All the rest of them have been, at 78,000 gross and 79,000.
Right.
But they're hard to they're hard to tandem out.
Right.
Because those trailers, they are loaded.
Yeah. I know when I lived in Georgia, I was hauling containers, and I would haul them down to the port, and for $20, I could get a permit to run up to 100,000. So that's not that big of a deal for you to be the 87 and whatnot. And the roads are damn sure built to take it. Look at all the mega loads that we have out there. So it's obviously one of them unspoken rules. He's running disaster relief, let him go.
Yep.
So now we did talk before, and it was you was making one of your first runs, and it was a cute little story. Go ahead and tell them about your first scale house.
So I hook up to this load, and I look over at my airbag pressure over here on the dash, and it's right at 85. And I knew I was overweight, and the bill of lading.
Now, what is it normally? Mine's normally below 70, and I'm legal. I prefer it around 62.
Yeah, mine's right around there. If I'm hovering, 65, as long as I'm below 70, then I'm okay. If I'm at 70, then I'm really close at 34 on my drives.
Yeah, if I'm at 70, I might be a touch over. I damn sure need to look.
Yeah, you got to watch your fuel level at that point. But yeah, if I'm at 65 or below, I'm okay. And so anyway, so I looked at the bill of lading, and it said overweight, and I was loaded with I think 49,500 or something like that. And but it said estimated, next to the weight, so it wasn't accurate.
So that would have put you 45,000 pounds over gross. If your truck's like mine, I can get real damn close to 45.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and of course my truck's a little heavier because I'm running teams. So,
right.
I've got 2 guys worth of stuff that's...
Well, and a double bunk, so, yeah, you're right.
And we keep closed for a month, so anyway, but, so I get checked out, roll through the checkpoint to get my bill of lading and all that, and I hit the road, and we're taking back roads. That first load we ran to Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery. They're using as a staging area, and got to go through Georgia on 20. That was this first scale house, so I hit the rolling scale and truck must enter. Oh, great.
That down by Augusta?
Yes, sir. Or
okay.
No. Yeah, it was Augusta.
Yeah, if you're on the east side of the state, it would have been Augusta.
Yes, sir. Some of these cities are starting to run together.
Yeah.
But, so I hit that first scale house, and, everything's normal, I stopped before I hit the scales, and because I'm so heavy, I went ahead, put it in second gear, and creeped on to the scale, and they had me stop on my steering axle. They had me sit there for about 20 seconds. And then they had me go up to the drive axle. They had me sit there for 20 seconds. And that's about twice as long as they normally hold you per axle.
Right.
And they get me to pull forward and get my trailer axles on there. And once I got my trailer axles on there, that light did not move. It just stayed red.
Yeah.
And it stayed red. And it stayed red so long that my co-driver came out of the sleeper and says, "Everything all right?" I said, "Well, we're fixing to find out." And so a DOT officer comes out of the scale house, and he's got that little measuring device, that's on a wheel that you roll on the ground.
Uh-huh.
And he goes back by that rear axle, puts it on the ground, rolls forward to the next axle, writes something down on a piece of paper, rolls it on up to my rear drive axle, writes something else on a piece of paper, comes to the next one, writes something down, comes to the steering, writes something. I'm like, man, this is not good.
Right.
Oh my God, why is he taking all these measurements? Like, I don't have time for this. Because they put you're on a time schedule, they know that you're exempt from hours of service. There is no reason to stop.
Right.
You should have had fuel before you got loaded. You need to go.
Yeah.
So he comes around the front of the tractor, and he starts taking my license plate number down. Now the whole time he's looking down at the ground. He's looking at my axles, he's looking at my license plate, and his clipboard. And he just thought that he had met his monthly quota on this one truck. And he starts walking back to the scale house, and I had my window rolled down, and I leaned out the window and I said, Sir, excuse me, sir. And finally, after like the 4th time, he looked up. Yes. And I said, could you do me a favor and look up in the windshield right over there on the passenger side? Could you just look at that real quick? Because I can't say, they're not going to believe anything a driver says. So he goes around to the front of the truck, and he looks up, and I've got this FEMA disaster relief placard up on my windshield, and he looked like a kid that had opened up a Christmas stocking and seen coal.
Right.
Just so sad. I mean, it looked like I stole his wife from him. He came back around to the driver's side, and he just put his clipboard down and said, "You can go. Go ahead. Just go ahead."
Right.
So I put it in third gear and took off, and I was laughing for probably the next 3 miles down the highway.
Right. Shame on you. Take away
Shame
all his
on
fun.
me. I messed his whole day up right there.
Right. So what all are you hauling? Mostly water. I know they throw some food. Is it mixed loads or straight loads? Or are you going to manufacturers? How you getting your loads and all that stuff?
Man, so this must be a pretty big operation because we have made one run to Maryland to get a supply of tarps.
Now, did you deadhead up there?
Oh, man, I have deadheaded 8,560 miles in the past 10 days.
Well, that ain't bad.
Well, I'm talking bobtail.
Yeah.
I never dreamed that I would ever bobtail that much.
Right.
You're paid for everything, and as an owner-operator is making a killing out here. But, yeah, I've bobtailed a lot. We bobtailed from Marianna, Florida, which is just west and a little bit north of Tallahassee. We bobtailed from Marianna all the way to Annapolis.
Right.
That was a fun run. But yeah, and we've just been hauling supplies. We typically haul dry vans, so they've kept us on dry van. They don't have any refrigerated loads, obviously, because there's fuel shortage down there. The electricity's still down in Florida. In some parts, it's still working, but in the hard-hit areas, Panama, Marianna, Mexico Beach, and all the little towns in between there's no power. So it's just dry goods. We've hauled mainly water and MREs. I've probably hauled twice as much water as I've hauled food. And we've had 2 loads of tarps. And I've never actually seen the tarp trailers opened. I've seen the water trailers opened, and I've seen the MRE trailers opened. And I mean, it's the whole box is full.
Right.
But yeah, it's just mainly supplies, and of course, then you've got the flatbedders out there that are hauling the equipment. And generators and lights and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it ain't been too bad of a gig. You getting your rest?
Oh yeah, this is the easiest money I've ever made, and probably easiest money that I will ever make in
More
trucking.
likely. Well, the bad thing is all that bobtailing, because I know you're bobtailing in the rain, and that's one of the most dangerous things you can do as a driver.
Yes, and that has been an experience, you've said that in your videos, and, every once in a while as a driver, you're going to bobtail, 30, 40 miles, maybe. Most of the time you're going to deadhead with an empty trailer. But, I mean, I'm consistently, I run a load, we've been mainly hauling out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and we've been hauling out of an auxiliary airfield just north of Orangeburg, South Carolina. And we run the load down south to either Tallahassee or to Marianna, and then we bobtail, 350 to 650 miles north to get another load. So we're just hauling trailers south. And, yeah, the bobtailing has been an experience. We've hit some patches of rain, and we've hit some patches of wind. And, yeah, it's totally different than having a trailer. I'd much rather have an empty trailer than be bobtail. Braking is a lot easier.
Right. Well, when I did trade show freight, I ended up bobtailing all the time from California and Nevada back to Atlanta. So yeah, and now that you've had a few patches of rain, you see what I was talking about on the how dangerous that stuff can get.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that's something that I can tell you all day until I'm blue in the face, until you get out there and you do it and experience it, you just won't believe it. I mean, they're a lot harder to stop. That rear end gets to bouncing, and it just gets plumb stupid.
Yep. Yeah, it's nuts. I've done a really I feel like I've done a really good job of keeping my fuel tanks above a half. I don't ever go down below a half. That helps a little bit with having weight on the drives. And also too, you just never know when you're going to run into no fuel.
Right.
You know, at least if I have half a tank, I know I can get 500 to 600 miles, probably a little bit better with bobtail, so that I can get fuel.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next. Not trying to pick on people, but wanting my people to learn, my subscribers to learn. What is some of the stupid stuff that you've seen other drivers do? Go into this disaster area without fuel or run out of fuel down there? Anything that you have seen that can be a learning point?
Yes. So I have seen trucks that are working for FEMA, like they know that they're going into the thick of it. They've kept us out of the thick of it, but I got another story. I got thrown into the thick of it and ended up in Mexico Beach. But on my way to Mexico Beach, yeah, I saw 8 trucks on the highway, and they had their windows down, everything opened up. I don't think that they had fuel, otherwise they wouldn't have been, so open. I've seen drivers, and me and you both can't preach it enough, use all of the space that you have to make your turns.
Yep.
I've seen so many people get hung up on electric poles that are down, on the corner. They're hanging out 3 feet over the corner, and you can make that. I made that turn. I'm a rookie, and I made that turn, and my tandems were all the way at the back of my trailer.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of people get their trailer hung up in ditches. I've seen a lot of people get their trailer hung up, on poles like that. I've seen a couple of them, trying to turn into these pods, these points of delivery that they put up a pod in some of the craziest places. I mean, it might be at the Baptist church in the neighborhood, and that Baptist church wasn't meant for a semi to go in there. Now you can get one in there,
right?
But you gotta pay attention, and I've seen them. And fortunately, I have not seen any trailers or trucks on their sides.
Good.
But if a gust of wind came by very hard, it would probably blow them over. So, and I've been doing a lot of the tight driving, because before I started driving a semi truck, I was hauling hot shot trailers and stuff. So I'm more comfortable with the trailer than my co-driver. And my co-driver, after he saw, I think, the 4th or 5th truck in a ditch, me and him just came to an agreement that if we're going into a thick area, that I'll drive.
Right.
And I don't mind that, because if you're outside, I've seen him outside of his comfort zone, and that's an accident waiting to happen.
That's what I was fixing to say. You've heard me preach it. Don't drive outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Let's back up a second here. You was talking about these other trucks and the turning and all that. Now I know that you're not well seasoned and you're not an investigator and all that nonsense. Are you saying that, in your opinion, these oops that we're talking about, telephone poles and all that, is it from lack of paying attention and keeping track of where your equipment is, or was it just that bad of turns on some of them?
Um, well, from being out here on the road, I can say that it was a combination of not paying attention, and there's this phenomena out here of experienced drivers where it's like they take turns short to show off to somebody.
Yep.
I don't know who they're trying to impress,
Right.
but you know, it's like they get something out of clearing something by like 1 inch or 2 inches. But I think a lot of drivers out here don't always drive with their tandem axles, past 41 foot. They usually keep it at 41 foot, or right in that California range. And with as heavy as and the way that they load these trailers, we've had to have our tandems further back.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, slide those tandems back 6 feet and watch your off track. And so they're taking the turns too short, and they have the space. You can button hook turn these trucks and trailers into some really narrow roads, but you gotta do the button hook, and it is what it is. It's a disaster area. There's not a bunch of traffic. Most of the cars are turned over and on top of houses and trees.
Right.
So and the rule of law, the cops are just sitting there waving you on, like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
So they, if you go into the other lane of traffic, it's not a big deal. I mean, nobody's gonna run into you. But they're just not using all of their space. They're taking it too short, and then when they do take it too short in the turn, they're not watching their trailer.
Right.
So it's a combination of those.
Chances are they could back up and regroup and take it again and make it correct, but instead they go ahead and try to go on through it.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
I assume you're getting tons of pictures.
Oh, yeah. I've had my dash cam. I stopped at a Walmart, I guess 3 or 4 nights ago, and I went ahead and bought some more memory cards because I'm going to have so much footage to edit, because nobody wants to see the boring night drive,
Right.
But there's been so much daytime footage that we've captured that I want to go through and edit it. But I've gotten a lot of video. I haven't gotten a lot of pictures because
Right. Video's cool. I'm gonna want to get you to upload that onto my YouTube channel for me.
Yep.
Carlos and Nomad's been trying to work through it. Nomad put up a little video, and we're trying to work through it. So it's a little bit of process, but we have came to the agreement that if somebody really wants to share with me, they'll go through the little bit of hassle to get it to me. So as you get it edited, please get with me or Carlos, and let's see about getting it up if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll get you. And I'll probably have it somewhere around 10-15 minutes. The best footage that I've had was at nighttime going into Mexico Beach. I don't know why they had me go in there at night. That was probably the most dangerous thing that I've done so far in trucking. But I made it through it. But I know the video quality just isn't there. You won't be able to see very much. But we'll see what I can salvage out of that one. But yeah, I'll try to get you a good view of it, and at least let y'all see FEMA's trying to, and they've mentioned it a couple of times. They're trying to avoid ever having another Katrina. They've put a lot of effort into not having that happen again. And we were down in the area, regardless of what you see on the news. We had trailers in the area the very next day.
Right.
We were there that next morning after that storm. The storm was in South Carolina, passing through to the Atlantic. We were already in Florida with water and food and tarps and generators and all kinds of stuff. So, but it's hard to get it to the beach. You just had a Category 4 hurricane come through. Roads are not passable. So, it is hard to get it to those people that really need it.
Right.
We got as close as we could until we got some bulldozers out there to clear the roads for us.
Right.
But I've been really impressed with how prepared they were. The logistics side of it, they need some logistics experts working, because they clearly do not understand the transportation industry. As far as communications and, of course, I don't think the transportation industry understands communications, but they could definitely use some help on their logistics.
I brought you outside with me. My dog's going potty. Come on, buddy.
You're fine.
It's my old man. He's getting pretty old.
Is he?
Oh, yeah. He's 15 now, I guess.
Ooh.
Yeah, for a little dog, they don't usually get that old.
Yeah, my dachshund, we just had to put my dachshund down. She was 16, and
sorry to hear that. Fur babies are hard to lose as kids. What other? Well, let me go at it this way. What advice can you give anybody that's going to come in and try to do this in the future?
With disaster relief?
Yeah.
Don't get in a hurry. Don't get in a hurry. Take your time. Pay attention, because those down power lines will get you.
And you're always hearing me tell people not to panic and all that, to remain calm. Have you been in any situations where you've had to make yourself be calm and not panic?
Yes, absolutely. I've had to stop the truck, pull the brakes, and take a minute.
Yep.
Because, they give me this address and they tell me to go here, but they with the company I'm with, they give us a route and they tell us how to get there and all this. And, thank God that I started trucking without a GPS. I know how to read a map, and I know how to plan halfway. Anyway, I'm not going to say I'm an expert. But I have an idea of what I'm doing.
Right.
And they have sent me to some towns that I don't think semi-trucks have ever been to.
Right.
And, those roads are not designed for trucks. And yeah, so I've come up on a couple of turns, even as confident as I am, that before I even started to set up for that turn, I knew that turn was going to be tight, and I had to stop. I've had to stop probably 3 times, and not just for turns, but for situations.
Right.
There was a group of people.
Come on, Scrub, go in the house.
Maybe 20 miles, maybe 15, 20 miles east of Mexico Beach, right there on the coast. And there was a group of people that were basically blocking the road, kind of kind of like a PETA demonstration. But they definitely weren't demonstrating for that. They were desperate. They were hungry. They were thirsty. But they were blocking the road. And I saw it about half a mile up, but I had to go down that road. But in those types of situations, you do not want to stop, because people do crazy things when they're desperate.
Yep.
And I know that because of just situational awareness and just having a little bit of background knowledge. I know that people will rob you and kill you. So I had to sit there and think about what I was going to do, and I just decided I was going to creep through at about 3 miles an hour, and they let them bang on my truck and all that, and I'm going to get to my point of delivery and get this load dropped. But for people coming that ever, have their company assign them to disaster relief, a piece of advice is you better have food and water on your truck.
Did they give you any training for handling these situations? Anybody? Did you receive any kind of training on anything to do with this?
Yeah, I watched Papa Joe's videos before I started driving a truck.
I don't think I quite covered this subject.
That was my training for this situation. They gave us a trailer, gave us a bill of lading, and said, get to your POD. No, there was no advice that they gave us. There was nothing. A person that hasn't ever looked into something like this, or that hasn't learned about the real world, not just the world that they live in, but how things actually are, they can end up in some pretty bad situations.
Yeah.
So my piece of advice is be even more aware of your surroundings than you ever were before. Look up, look down, look left, look right. Make sure that your vehicle is clear. You need to have a week's worth of food and water. Just as if you were driving on Interstate 90 in the wintertime. You need to have food and water. I can't stress that enough. I can't tell you how many truck drivers have come up to me and my co-driver and said, man, were you guys prepared for this?
Right. And you got to say, yeah.
And of course I was. It's October, and I'm used to running up north.
Right.
Of course and I was ready in June. I've always had food and water on my truck, but
right.
But this was very important because I've been on standby. The longest I've been on standby was 52 hours.
Right.
Posted up at a truck stop because they closed the Air Force base, to us, and they just had us on standby. And in some of the places that we've been, there is no food or water there. That's why we're taking it in on 53-foot trailers. But we're able to go away from there, stop by Walmart, stop by something, your bobtail, so you can get into places and make sure you have food and water, because some of these drivers have been pretty hungry out here, and I've helped out a few of them, but
well, and the hell of it is, there's probably quite a few of them that are supposed to be experienced drivers that are putting themselves in that predicament.
Yeah, I met a guy. He said he had been driving for 22 years. He's been a trainer for 16, and he had like 6 bottles of water and like 2 deals of Vienna sausages on his truck. And I said, "You're a trainer?"
Right.
He said, "Yeah, I've been a trainer for a while." I said, "That's what you teach your students, is to run on bare anything?"
Yeah.
I mean, are you that worried about your weight on your axles? You don't want food and water? Like, I mean, I gave him a real hard time.
Good.
Because that's ridiculous, you know. It's just ridiculous. So keep food and water on your truck. Be even more aware of your surroundings than you ever were before. Hurry up and wait. That motto is even more true in these kind of situations because you are now government property. So be prepared to hurry up to where you're going and then sit there for hours on end.
Do they seem to be very... I'm running short on my memory on this tablet. That's why I'm trying to throw in a few good questions at you. Do they seem to be prepared and have a clue what they're doing? I know you said that they needed training in logistics. I understood that. But overall, do they seem to have some kind of, what I want to say, rhythm to it or anything, or is it just total chaos?
There is a rhythm to it as far as, you know, the people that are supplying the trailers, like FEMA, there's a rhythm to that. But once you get to where you're delivering that trailer and it's turned over to the National Guard and the U.S. Army, the Army doesn't have a clue until, you know, 100 trucks show up in their parking lot and they're like, what do we do with all these trailers?
Right. Well, that's what you ran into when you checked in initially.
Initially, yes.
Yeah,
after the initial part, then they get a rhythm going and they...
You had told me about showing up at a Air Force base with a load of water and they let you in and you get out there on the grind and trucks everywhere and they're like, why in the world they let you in?
Yes, I showed up at 4 in the morning and they said, can you fit it into this spot? And it was a blindside 90 with very little room at, you know, in the middle of the night. I blindsided in there just fine. And then I sat there for 8 hours and they did not let us disconnect from the trailers. And finally at about 11 o'clock in the morning, they finally figured out, okay, we need to have these guys park, you know, 45 and everything else like that. So they finally got us organized 8 hours later. But yeah, they had to turn down. They couldn't accept any loads because they didn't have any room. Because they didn't have any. They didn't tell us how to park. So some truck drivers just go in there and inconsiderate, you know.
Yeah. I appreciate you choosing your words there because I've been in that predicament and you just scratch your head. Yep. Well,
it's been a good experience. It's the easiest money you'll ever make in truck driving. But it's some of the most interesting money you'll ever make in truck driving too.
Right. Well, you don't have to hang up. We'll chat a little bit more, but I am going to sign off on this video because I don't trust my tablet. And I don't want it to cut us off and then makes for a bad situation. Hey folks, you've been hearing from Stone. You've seen him on the channel. He's running that relief, so there you go. That's a little briefing of what he's going through, and maybe when it's all over and said and done with, and maybe we'll talk to him again about a little bit more of it. With that, y'all remember, God loves you. So do we. Y'all have a good evening. Hope you learned something. You want to tell them bye, Stone?
Guys, y'all take care. And like Papa Joe said, God loves everybody. Keep that in mind. So do we.
All right, brother. Bye, folks.